There are a lot of people wondering right now, how did the left lose so bad in 2024? And I'll tell you why. It's because all the left ever does is lie about everything. And the issues that they've managed to get people still enthusiastic enough to go vote on are three very bizarre things. Okay, the first one is the lie that Trump is a fascist and that in order to save the world from Nazism, you gotta vote against him. That's one of the big ones, which is silly. Okay, I'm gonna let you in on this little secret that so few people will tell you. Funny story, right? So when I was only just started to get interested in politics relatively late in life, around 20, 2012 or so, I was like an atheist. I had grown up in a very left wing state. I, considered myself a cosmopolitan, egalitarian type guy. Um, and I was told over and over again by the progressive media that I was watching, which really was guys that are still around, like the Young Turks, Kyle Kalinske. I was a big time watcher of those guys. I watched The Amazing Atheist. How embarrassing is that, right? And this channel even started because I was interested in atheism as a topic. Now an old man, and back then I was interested in like debating flat earthers and shit. Like I was into that skeptic nonsense, which was back then when YouTube was a much smaller place, much more niche place, actually one of the major cultural drivers of the site. It is not that anymore. PewDiePie came around and then a bunch of young kids got smartphones and everything changed. But back then I was told something. I was told that America has no real left wing and that we must look to Europe and we must look especially to Scandinavia, to these countries that tax heavily and the government really controls resources. And there's a lot of this management, and that's the way to do things. And actually, nobody should have guns. And it was just very, actually, if you think about it, very authoritarian model where you don't really decide, the state decides what's best for you. And you don't really have any freedom. It's a very un-American concept. But I was told that America doesn't have a left wing. That's a lie. The truth is that America is the only place in the West where the right wing even exists. There's little glimmers of it here and there, maybe a flash in Germany here, a little sparkle in Greece there, a little puff of smoke, and then off on the wind in the UK. And you might at least see some grassroots protest movements going on in the Netherlands and Canada where people are just like the situation's intolerable and I have no representation in the government. The population, the citizenry will cry out in anger as the system completely fails them. But keep in mind, you've been also told that populism is akin to fascism. And a lot of people are just like, God, I just want to, make America great again. The very concept of America is fascism, because what is being proud of being an American? Well, that's nationalism. That's basically you being a Nazi. What was Nazi? National Socialism. You're a nationalist. You're a populist. Well, you must be a bigot or a racist or blah 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 blah. You learn there's actually no such thing as a right wing. Trump is a liberal. He voted Democrat his entire life. You listen to the shit the guy says, it's all the same shit I was thinking growing up in a very blue state. Egalitarianism, meritocracy, each according to their ability, and shit. Well, no. We got to have equity. Equity means each according to their needs. And we must redistribute wealth and power to everybody equally. Do you know what that is? That is the definition of communism. Oh, caring about the borders, that's fascism. No, communism is the concept of a borderless, classless, no stratified society. Everyone's a comrade. Everyone is equitable. So what America actually is liberalism versus communism. And what you're seeing, everyone's scared of talking about on the news, and you're being assured is just an absolute fucking crisis anytime the fucking the feds, the secret police of the country are talking about, are telling you spooky. Whenever you hear, oh my God, there are these these bigots, these traditionalists, these fundamentalists, these ists, these racists, blah, blah, blah. That's conservatism. That's what the right wing is. The closest that we have to it is the idea that there's somebody who pays lip service to populism. And what is populism but the will of the people? Another word for it might be democracy. But the thing is, the reason why the left wing can't win is because they don't give a fuck about anybody except for who votes for them. And guess what? White taxpayers don't vote for them. And white taxpaying men, I should say, and about 50% of white taxpaying women don't vote for them. And now, for the first time in a very long time, like 20% of blacks almost are not really voting. There's like 15, I think it's like almost 20% black men and then like 8% black women because they're the most unreasonable of the bunch. And then Hispanics moved massively to the right. And the thing is, the reason why the border crisis is a thing is because these people have to import their voters. Okay, I explained in a previous video how voter ID figures really greatly into this because Democrats, at least at the federal level, can only win states that don't require ID to vote because they have illegal immigrants voting. Period. Trump won every state with photo ID. Period. Including all the swing states that everyone was so sure Kamala Harris was going to win that had photo ID. Why is that, do you think? The other thing is, I also explained why only major metropolitan areas vote left wing. It's because these people are dependent on the welfare system. And if you think, oh God, no, we're actually this capitalist fascist society. Have you looked at the national budget? Over 50% of it is just wealth redistribution, is just taking taxpayer money and giving it to illegals or giving it to the impoverished or giving it as subsidies to a business or subsidies to an industry or subsidies to education or subsidies. It's just the state presumes to pay for everything. If you think, oh, the state must do like roads and law enforcement and all this social order shit and border security and just, all this shit you think a nation does, guess how much money they spend as a percentage of the budget for that? Like 15, 20% maybe. The rest of it is pissed out of the country or pissed into people who's not you. If you're even remotely close to middle class, it's not you. Okay, so that's why the right wing is, no matter how many illegals they flood in and no matter how much they try to hoard industry and culture into these major metropolitan areas that are filled with people who depend on the state to survive, because all these left-wing people who assure you they care about wealth inequality, all the big blue strongholds in the entire nation are the most extreme wealth inequality you've ever seen, because the only people who live there are the wealthy or the poor who have to be what's the word I'm looking for? Subsidized by the government to live there because no one else can afford to live there but the rich. That's where you're at. And then what's like another thing that the left wing, was screaming about a bunch in the Obama terms, and they're a little quieter about now, is climate change. And a lot of them are saying like, oh God, the right wing's all conspiracy theorists who say that climate change is a scam. Well, let me be honest with you folks. Climate change is real. Okay, global temperatures are shifting and rising overall, and it is causing problems and natural disasters and shit. But what is the nature? What is the nature of the government's entire involvement in what to do about climate change? It's a scam. Carbon credits and carbon offset this and blah, 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 blah. It's always to fine people and to take money from somewhere and put it somewhere else or to steal it from people. It's a form of illegal taxation. And then they spend it on what? Oh, electric cars. That's totally going to fix the problem. Have you seen what a cobalt mine looks like? Have you seen what a lithium mine looks like? Do you think that the process that manufactured everything from your Tesla car battery to your iPad or your cell phone was anywhere near carbon neutral? Do you think that fracking is as bad as a fucking lithium strip mine? Do you know what that looks like? They fucking have to pour tons of chemicals in the earth. They dig these giant pits that destroy an entire region, and they dig that pit out with a giant gantry crane grinding machine thing that looks like a sci-fi war machine the size of a fucking Walmart. A singular fucking machine the size of a goddamn fucking shopping mall is grinding this shit out, and then slave labor is shoveling it out of there somewhere in Afghanistan or Africa. That's what your electric future is. You think that's any better than coal? Do you think that the emissions of the machinery and the industry that creates your iPhone is carbon neutral, or is in any way worse than your average coal power plant? It's not. And do you think America is in a position, or Europe for that matter, is in a position to save the environment? No. Who's destroying the environment? China and India. Have you heard a climate change activist tell you anything about what we should do about the literal shithole that is India? By the way, let me tell you how to play a game. I want you to go on Google Street View over anywhere in India and just pick an area around kind of the outskirts of a major city like New Delhi. That's a good one. And just take anywhere that's outside of this kind of central area, that giant city, and tell me how long it takes you to find stacks upon stacks of literal tons of cow shit patties that have been hand formed into bricks. Literal mountains of shit. I'm not just talking about the shit that humans put on the street. I'm talking about the cows that randomly roam this place, and what people do with it. Did you know they paint their houses with shit? Did you know they worship these cows to the point that they bathe in cow piss, and they deliberately eat cow shit as a religious practice for good luck and shit? Did you know that? Did you know that every last one of their rivers is a literal river of garbage that is not just filled with garbage, but human shit, cow shit, and rotting corpses? The entire countryside is roved by fucking man-eating packs of wild dogs. That's India. And they're about, like, I don't know, 25 to 30% of global pollution. And the rest is China, which is not much more of a civilized place. But it is more so than India, I'll tell you that. North Korea makes a pretty nice looking place compared to India. Yeah, between China and India, 80%. 80% of ocean pollution, 80% of air pollution, 80% of land pollution. Flat out, globally, 80 fucking percent. 4/5 of it. Do you think your random European country or America or Canada is in any position to save the world? No. Not without fucking just bombing and nuking China and India, they're not. No, there's nothing you can do about climate change. Then what's the only other thing they got? Abortion. You wonder why there's this problem with misogyny all across the world. I'll tell you why there's a problem with misogyny, because women are fucking trash. Okay, if in the world of birth control and Depo-Provera shots and condoms available everywhere and Plan B and all this shit, and you need the ability to murder your unborn child because you can't not get pregnant, and you need to fuck around and get pregnant by multiple men before getting married, and then you're wondering why, oh, I got 3 mixed race kids and I'm unmarried and I'm 35 and how come I can't start a family? It's because you fucked it up. Women are the sexual selectors of the human race, okay? We don't get to beat you on the head and drag you into a cave like fucking Cro-Magnon anymore. You decide when you start a family, and your idea of starting a family is having unprotected sex with fuckboys and then just having kids that another man doesn't want. And that is across white women, black women, every kind of women you look. What's the number one fucking issue that they cared about and why they were voting left wing? Abortion, 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 abortion. And the rich or Christian or well-to-do women actually have a pretty strong pro-life position on some of this shit, or they might, especially if they're well-to-do, care about things that the right wing cares about, like lowering taxes to reduce the strain on their families, because some of these people manage to form families still without becoming a dysfunctional Satanist or hedonist. That's the state of the country right now. So, I was raised all my life to say, like, oh, hey, conservative Christians are prudes. They're the only people with any sanity, because the way the human race actually is supposed to function is in family units. Meanwhile, we got a left wing that every kind of propaganda they spread is that the idea of a family is ridiculous. You should be polyamorous, or you should be perpetually single and fucking around, and you should, have kids that aren't biologically your own and all this shit, or, you should kill your own kids. It's like fucking. And of course, they also tell you that, oh, you should definitely date and marry and have kids outside of your race. Well, hey, what's one of the major problems with black people, the black population that I've been talking about since like 2015? It's saying is that having kids out of wedlock is the fastest way to poverty, in continuous, perpetual, unsurmountable poverty. To have kids out of wedlock. How many black children in America for the past 10 years have been born out of wedlock? 75% of them. When it comes to mixed race situations where a white person, a white woman and a black man that have a kid, how many of them end up married and stay married? 5% of them. The other 19 out of 20, father's not in the life, white woman saddled with mixed race kids. They're fucked for life. Okay? And it's still bad. It's still no better than the black on black thing with white men and black women. It's still like 75%. Okay, so look, miscegenation, whatever, love is love, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work. We can have a debate over whether that's cultural or biological, whether it's natural or artificial, but it doesn't work. I'm just telling you, it hasn't worked. It's been a catastrophic failure for the family unit in this country. It doesn't work. But if you try to talk about that, you're a racist, Nazi, fascist monster. Black people were literally, financially, culturally, crime, all the above. Everything for black people was better under Jim Crow than it was after. Period. And it has only gotten progressively worse since the late 70s, continuously. And it's for a number of reasons, some of which are not exclusively their fault. Like the CIA funding their wars, their proxy wars against communism by flooding the inner cities with crack cocaine. Yeah, they didn't do that to themselves. They participated in that against themselves. In the same way that the slave trade wasn't just white people coming over to Africa and picking black people out of the ground like carrots. No, black warlords sold their black slaves to Portuguese and Jewish slave traders who then ferried them to the free world. Now, has Portugal or Israel stepped up to take any responsibility for that situation? No, they settled that on the modern white people who haven't had a slave, had anything in their families tied in any way tangentially to the slave trade in 4 generations. But anyway, unlike my last video, I didn't want to go on for an hour. I just wanted to say that, like, hey, like, look, everything about the left wing is a lie. And if you're wondering why they're scrambling like this, is because ultimately, at the end of the day, the buck's got to stop with somebody, and the buck is what people really care about. And if they were wondering why they were losing the swing states, and if they were losing ground in blue strongholds like California and New York, and if they're wondering why Trump won the popular vote when they thought that was fucking impossible. And I know in my last video I mentioned, like, oh, there's 15 million votes disappeared. Now that gap's like closed to like 6 to 2 million or something. But who's still counting votes? Oh yeah, Southern California. Dude, how many dyed-in-the-wool blue voters live just in the Orange County? Or just in whatever South Central Los Angeles is, or any of that shit. Yeah, you consider that whole area maybe extended as far as like Sacramento or whatever. It's like 30 million people. Okay, how many people total voted for Harris? What's somewhere between 64 and 67 million people. And LA doesn't run the country. But yet the left wing still wants to scream about, oh, I'm a popular vote. and they still think the Electoral College is fascism. The Democrats would win all the time if their big, major, fucking catastrophically motherfucked dystopian hellscape major metropolitan areas got to decide every election. They already decide entire states. Like half of California by like district is red. Most of Oregon is red. Most of Washington is red. Most of Illinois is red. None of those states have gone red in half a century. But that margin of how strongly blue they are is shrinking. And that's because a lot of people who pay taxes don't live in those fucking places anymore because Democrat tax policy is batshit insane. They all moved to Texas or Florida or fucking Idaho or something. They moved away from that fucking garbage town because Democrats fuck everything up and they require communism, wealth distribution, criminality, fraud, and violent force and suppression of the rights of the population to function. The Democrats can't win on the issues. The only issues they even have is whether or not you're allowed to slaughter your own children, slaughter your own infant children is about all they can get anybody to be enthusiastic about, is whether or not you can abort babies. Nobody gives a fuck about anything else on the Democrat. They're just running scared. They're just a cult of afraid, terrified babies that are being assured that the pretty far fucking left-wing Republicans are going to round them up in concentration camps or fucking line them up on their knees blindfolded in front of ditches. It's not going to happen. You're fucking insane. God, I wish Trump was as based as these people say they are. He's not even fucking close. I voted for him. How enthusiastically do you think I voted for him? Do you think I think he's going to make America great again? No. I'm going to tell you the same thing I've been telling you over and over again. You can't vote your way out of this. The system is irrevocably corrupt. The only thing you're ever going to get is lip service. You're going to get you're basically, imagine like your carotid artery is spraying arterial blood, spraying your life force out. And somebody is willing to kind of half compress your wound and reduce your blood loss by about 50%. That's Trump. You think they're going to reverse any of the shit that's been going on since Nixon that has destroyed this country? No. What the Republicans are is moving in the wrong direction one step at a time, and the Democrats are moving in the wrong direction 5 steps at a time. Nobody is walking in the right direction, and nobody is looking out for you, period. Okay? That's what you're looking at. So the fact that there's a bunch of hysterical people ending themselves or fleeing the country or ending up in a mental institution with exhaustive fucking mental breakdowns, those people are crazy. Nothing is as bad in your mind as you think it is. But in my mind, is everything as bad as I think it is? Yeah, probably worse. It's probably so much worse than I think it is, and I think it's catastrophic. So me, with my Republican supermajority, sure, the right wing wins, am I happy? Fuck no. I'm not happy, okay? I'm slightly less upset than I was last year. That's it. And then I get to laugh at libs crying and being hysterical and stupid and delusional. I get a little bit of catharsis for my vote. That's what I get. My taxes might go down slightly. Is the dollar going to recover to the point where I feel like I'm getting back to 2019? Fuck no. We're fucked. We're so fucked. We've been fucked since Black Friday. What was that, 1981 or something? Or 87? I forget. Somewhere in the mid-80s is the last time the economy was even remotely healthy. It's been a little bit up and then down, a little bit up and then down, a little bit up and then down since then. That's where you're at. 25 minutes, we're done. Good luck, everybody. Bye, ammo.